Through some of the highs and some of the lows of the championship, obviously, yeah, we've experienced all the emotions from obviously winning Mexico, and then some of the lows of the championship where, you know, we were going through the slump and yeah, we weren't quite performing. So yeah, I think now's a good opportunity to go through it all, see where we can improve for next year, and ultimately, yeah, season highlights. Let's get to it. So leaving Valencia, we were obviously in a tough position as a team. Not the most encouraging start to the Gen 3 era. We were lacking pace, we were lacking pure performance. You know, I went into the off-season thinking, you know, it's just going to be one of those seasons where you can't perform. You know, you're just going to try and scrape a point here and there, but yeah, nothing big. You know, we were just going to, right, if we can score a point here or there. Mexico was huge. Up on energy, 8 seconds in the lead. It was something special, something which you don't really get to experience so much in Formula E. You know, I feel like all these races, you're always, you know, fighting someone. But the first race, first Gen 3 era, and to pull away by 8 seconds was pretty special. Something I'll never forget. Something which I can share with the team. You know, Roger's here celebrating as well, and Campbell shows no emotion. To win the first race was pretty special. Andre kept coming home in fourth, was huge for the team, and we were leading the constructors at that point as well. So coming off the back of Mexico, we were leading the Drivers' Championship, we were leading the constructors, and we didn't know if it was a one-off though. It was still like a very unusual situation to be in after obviously the whole Valencia situation, and we didn't really know how competitive we were going to be going into Saudi. It was a difficult qualifying situation. You know, we didn't start on the front row. We started P12 and P6, so it was a challenging time. But you know, we left that race with 2 P2s. I think it was a huge turning point in terms of the championship. It was so early on, but nevertheless, I really felt like that Porsche have delivered me a winning powertrain. It was still so early on in the championship, but it was like a real turning point in terms of that we could actually deliver a top result. So moving on to Hyderabad, it was obviously a new circuit for everyone, but we were confident going into it. Efficient racetrack for the Porsche powertrain. I felt like we could get a good result, but qualifying again was a real struggle for us. We qualified down in outside the top 10, took it on the chin. We turned it around, obviously in the season, but nevertheless, yeah, we lost ourselves 15 points, which was a bit of a shame, but yeah, it was what it was, and yeah, we couldn't do too much about it at that point. So we then moved on to Cape Town and Brazil. You know, I just wanted to put Hyderabad behind me. It was obviously pretty spread out at this point of the season, but we were still, you know, right up there in terms of fighting with Pascal. And yeah, it obviously wasn't to be. It was a real mixed emotions throughout, basically from like January until April. We didn't score any points, and yeah, I didn't really know how to take it, but we had a fast car, there was no denying that, and I felt like Sao Paulo and Cape Town, we could have easily fought for a top 5. I don't think a podium was possible, but nevertheless, I think we could have came away with easy 10 points. We were obviously involved in crashes and technical infringements, which was, yeah, I think I said over the radio, it was like, we're throwing away this championship at this point, and you know, Pascal was scoring big points at this point. We were dropping further and further back. We were down in P5 at that point. So I just felt like we needed a huge reset going into the summer break. I just felt like everything was going against us. It wasn't the team's fault, it wasn't my fault, but we needed to turn it around. We needed to turn our qualifying performance around. And a real challenging point in my career because I've never really been in that situation where I had the car to win. I had the car to make podiums, and I felt like it was all slipping away from me. Okay, so Berlin was next, and we're obviously back in the European leg. I still felt like I could win it, but yeah, nevertheless, we were having a real slump in terms of performance and luck and scoring points. You know, we qualified into the group stages and into the duels, which was massive for us. We were obviously struggling at this point in terms of pure performance over one lap. You know, I felt like the team had managed to make a massive turnaround in terms of Sao Paulo into Berlin, giving me a better car to be able to make into the duels. Yeah, it was great to be back on the European leg. We obviously scored our first podium back since Saudi. It was a solid P2. I felt like we reset our obviously championship fight, have a complete reset, go into obviously Monaco, which was next, which was a big race for everyone, and to score 18 points was obviously massive for us in that part of the season. And then from that point onwards, you know, it was such a turning point in terms of the season. You know, we were scoring back-to-back podiums. We obviously ended up beating the total amount of podiums in one season. A huge turning point in our career. I felt like I got my confidence back. We were, you know, qualifying at the front. I had one of the most efficient powertrains on the grid, and no matter really where I started, I felt like I could really take the fight to the winner. So home race for us was obviously a massive point in our season.
You know, we had Michael coming. It was the first race of the season for him to come and watch, and we started off pole position. You know, one of the best laps I've ever done in Formula E, and to deliver it in front of him was huge. We've never had the best results whenever Michael come. Start off pole position, and then, you know, to score another podium. I think it was our 5th in a row by that point. He obviously came along. My main rival won, which was a little bit disappointing. You know, I've never been so disappointed to finish second, but yeah, nevertheless, we obviously had a great event. You know, pole position, P2 in the race, massive points for the championship, and so it was Rome next, and you know, we're obviously only two races away from the end of the season. We're obviously in a good position in terms of the championship. We're fighting Nick, Mitch, and Pascal. Yeah, race 1, I felt like we had an easy podium in terms of probably looking good for a P3. Miscalculation between me and the team meant that we couldn't quite get it, but we still came home with P4. And then going into the highlights of race 2, huge selling point in terms of the season. You know, Mitch and Cassidy taking each other out, and then it was just down to me to deliver obviously a top result, gaining the 25 points, fastest lap, and really help my performance going into London. At this point, there's not too much you can do. You know, obviously Cassidy trying to get involved here, and then I think this is the big turning point. Evans locks the rear tyres, takes out Cassidy, and I just looked in my mirror and I saw Evans' car like completely, you know, like sort of upside down, and I didn't really know how to react. I remember just coming over the radio and I was like, I'm good. Like, I've got no damage. And you know, my engineer was like, okay, let's focus on the job in hand, like trying to settle me back down. It was such a huge point. Mitch and Nick never make mistakes, and for this to happen was massive. And yeah, from that point on, it was just about making no mistakes, trying to keep NATO and P2, so I had Sam Bird away from me. And yeah, we managed to do just that. And you know, Roger and Michael are obviously happy. The classic, yeah, baby. It was a massive turnaround from Saturday, you know, where we were lacking efficiency, we were lacking pure performance against Jaguar, and to turn it around and find like literally 5 or 6 temps at that high level is super impressive by the team, and they gave me the race car to deliver, to do the job, and it was just down to me, obviously, on Sunday, which was, I'm glad I could repay them and yeah, and score those vital points. So coming into London, you know, the pressure was high. I felt like I had so many media activities going into it. You know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was just back-to-back interviews. I felt like the pressure was building, but yeah, nevertheless, I felt like when I finally jumped into the car on Saturday, it was sort of my time where I could really perform and switch away from the cameras and switch away from all the pressure. And it was such a good event in terms of results, but also just in terms of pure performance. I felt like we were fighting the Jaguars to our high level. It was sort of their bread and butter in terms of the track layout. I felt like everything was against us, but nevertheless, we'll go through some of the highlights right now. You know, I felt like Nick and Buemi performed the perfect tactics going into the race in terms of, you know, backing me up. 1-2 for Envision right now. Nice dry conditions. Not much I can do right now, to be honest. I was just sort of a sitting duck, fighting against Buemi, trying to take it against Cassidy. Yeah, I definitely felt the pressure coming into the race. There's no denying that. You know, I think anyone who says they don't feel pressure is lying, or they don't care. And you know, I felt massive pressure on my shoulders for the team, for myself. It's such a big event, and I was up against it. There's no denying that. You know, I had Cassidy and Buemi working together. I had Evans up there, who was also in a Jaguar powertrain, and I had these 3 guys trying to do everything they possibly could to take it away from me. I've never experienced emotions like it, and it still gives me goosebumps now thinking about it. But nevertheless, obviously we managed to get the job done, but it was such a challenging race, so technical, an enjoyable one looking back at it now, and it made it even better. Obviously after obviously winning the title, all the emotions, what me and the team got to share. Yeah, so passing Cassidy was quite an important stage of that race. I felt like I got him a little bit flustered, tried to obviously bring him down with me. Buemi and Nick at that stage of the race were working together really well, and I felt like if I got in between them, then we could have spiced it up a bit. So this stage where Nick breaks his front wing, I didn't really know how to feel. It was such a huge turning point in terms of the race, the way I approached it. I felt like at that stage it was just trying to survive, trying to not lose too many points against Nick. And once he hit the back of his teammate, broke his front wing, you know, he went wide at turns 9, what we have right now, and I thought the championship was done. I thought I'd scored the 6 points. I was running P4 at that stage and going to score 10 to 12 points. And then I asked the team, where do I need to finish? And then they were like, you need to finish P3, which I couldn't believe. I completely forgot about Mitch at that stage of the race. Yeah, we're going to watch it right now and sort of reset, refocus, go back into the race and try and get that podium position, which we managed to do in the end, but it wasn't easy. And then obviously Pascal crashing and then causing a red flag was a huge sort of turning point in terms of the race. I never really experienced emotions like it. I sort of jumped out the car, went to speak to my manager straight away, and I feel like he's my go-to guy in terms of like a bit of a reset. I just went back to my driver's room once I'd spoken to him and just tried to sit on my chair and express my emotions to you guys right now is so difficult, and I don't think I'll ever be able to do it, but I didn't know how I felt. I felt like everything was against me. I felt like the whole world was caving in, and to obviously win it that day after everything what was thrown at us in terms of safety car, red flags, all the drama in terms of other guys fighting me, and was just unbelievable. And I think you could see it in terms of the team, of how they reacted, and obviously myself. But yeah, it was a massive race. When I watched it back on Monday, with no pressure, and I just sat on my sofa and watched it, I was like, this race is absolutely mental. Yeah, so obviously crossing the line and just noise came out of my mouth. Like there was no words, it was just pure screaming and speaking to the team and trying not to swear was really the biggest thing. But yeah, it was massive for all of us. Yeah, I didn't realize how much it meant to everyone. I feel like when you're a racing driver, you're so alone in terms of the car, and it's just you against the clock. And when you experience emotions like you did on Saturday, to win the championship was so cool to see how much it meant to them, and how many emotions they felt between the whole team, and to win it for them and obviously myself was massive.